Hello there, welcome to the Mythical Ireland Library. I'm just not sure if that microphone is peaking, maybe. Just let me know. Just lower it a little bit. Very good evening. You're all very welcome to Live Irish Myths. I'm Anthony Murphy. This is episode number 270. This is an unscheduled episode. Last night, at the end of episode 269, there was a Facebook outage of some kind. All the Facebook viewers said or reported that I had suddenly disappeared, while the YouTubers were still able to watch the end of the stream. So I said, well, hang on a second. We can't have that. So I'm going to reread a couple of pages. And in any case, because I had to leave the office here at 9:10, I didn't actually finish the chapter anyway. So I reckon if I go back a couple of pages and reread and overlap what we did last night, and then go to the end, and then talk about a couple of other books which are on a similar theme, if you are so interested. And the other thing is, of course, it was mentioned last night, and I didn't expect to be streaming tonight, but Tom King on the Mythical Ireland community has just reminded me that it's now exactly 4 years to the day since Live Irish Myths began. On the day of Thursday, the 12th of March 2020, our government here in Ireland announced the first lockdowns of the COVID pandemic. And facing into such uncertainty and such a period when we really didn't know what was going to happen from one day to the next, I sat down here that evening and at around 8 o'clock went live on the Mythical Ireland Facebook page. Initially didn't stream on YouTube, and just started talking about Irish mythology and reading from, I think it was Charles Squire's book. And in no time at all, people started watching and joining in and commenting. And I think during the pandemic, Live Irish Myths definitely helped to save me from abject anxiety and a bit of depression. And I'm grateful for all of you for coming along and watching and enjoying and contributing and participating and commenting, and for making it what it became. It's a funny thing. I fully expected, as we came out of the lockdowns in later in 2020 and in 2021, that the audience would vanish and we'd stop doing it. But here we are 4 years later, and still lots of you turning up, and lots of new people turning up as well. Some of the people who were here back in 2020 are not here anymore. They've moved on. We had one sad passing. That was Kelly Edmiston, who was a regular viewer back during the lockdowns. But a lot of you just got back to your busy lives, and that's just part of the way it goes. But come here. Here's raising an invisible toast, because I don't actually have a glass with anything in it, to all of you, and to thank you for your support during the past 4 years. And of course, those of you who have been following Mythical Ireland for a lot longer than that. And I know lots of you have been. And one of the most pleasurable things for me over the past couple of years has been to meet so many of you face to face. People who previously were only, as it were, names, members of the Mythflix Tua, scrolling up the side of the screen and comments being put on the bottom of the screen. And to be able to meet so many of you. We had a Hill of Tara excursion. Was that 2022 or 21? I know we had a Mythical Ireland day out on the Hill of Tara, which was the first proper opportunity for everybody to get together after the pandemic. That was a lovely day. We had a picnic and a tour. And then individually, I've met so many of you, including a good rake of viewers from the United States and Canada. So what a pleasure. And I'm so looking forward to meeting more of you, hopefully over the next while. So tonight's stream is really a pickup from last night, but also let's celebrate the longevity, if you pronounce it that way, of Live Irish Myths, and the fact that here we are at episode 270. And I knew there was a lot of material. I would have said that we would have maxed out at 100 and maybe stretched to 150. But here we are, 270 episodes. And to be honest, we haven't nearly exhausted. I mean, we've been reading from Joyce's Social History of Ancient Ireland, Volume 1, and we're only about halfway through that. And I think we've done 19 episodes just on that book. So there's so much more. There's so much more. I will continue as long as I'm able to continue. Delighted to be able to be part of the community. In other good news, there's going to be a bit of a redesign of the Mythical Ireland website over the next few months. You're going to see changes, improvements, mind you, not disimprovements. And Mythical Ireland is now my vocation. It's my full-time occupation. So if it's a thing that you thought, well, there's a guy I'd like to support, you could do any number of a number of things. You could buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Mythical Ireland. You could become a patron. And the beautiful thing about becoming a patron is for a relatively small outlay every month, you get bonus material, additional blog posts and photographs and podcasts and videos. There's a podcast that I recorded recently at Newgrange, an hour-long podcast about the Aurora Borealis over Newgrange, and that's available to patrons at the moment. Paid patrons, that is. You can sign up for nothing, but you don't really, you don't get a lot for that. The other thing you could do is go to the website, buy one of my books. I send signed copies of my books once they're ordered through the website. That's mythicalireland.com around the world. Or you could buy a high quality photographic print or a mounted print to help support the work of Mythical Ireland. Anyway, that's the little sales pitch done. Hope you're all in good form. I am going to read out comments. Wouldn't expect there to be quite so many people viewing tonight, given that this is not the habitual, this is not the usual Monday recording or stream even. It's not a recording. Well, it is being recorded, but it's live, if you know what I mean. So we'll say hello to everybody first off. I don't know if Caitlin Moon is in the house. She wasn't on last night, and there's a good reason why she's probably not on tonight. And that is because it is her birthday today. So we wish Caitlin. Oh my God, it's another me. Terrible. Don't start telling jokes. So, Caitlin, happy birthday to you. Hope you're having a great night and celebrating. And raise a glass for us, and we'll certainly raise one for you. So happy birthday. Have a great one. Lily Shambles is the first one to comment tonight. Elaine Dent Lingenfelter is normally first, but she may not have been expecting this broadcast. Evening, Anthony. Hope you're well. Glad to get here on time tonight. Just give me 1 second. I think I may have messed around with the ISO settings on the camera. And it's kind of left it a little bit grainy. Yep. Okay, that's better. Thank you, Lily, and you're very welcome. Always a pleasure to see you. Wayne Bird is in the house. He's watching on YouTube. Evening, Auntie. Are we on Facebook too? Yes, indeed. The Facebook stream is up. Rex Fortenberry is watching from Louisiana, where it's cool and sunny, ready for part 2, which is actually part 3, part 3. Rex, always a pleasure. Hope you're in good form. Mariana Dunn is saying, Bannock the all watching from Virginia. Hi, Mariana. Hope you're in good form. Kathy Ift is saying, good morning here from Washington State. Good, slightly afternoon now. Oh, hang on. You should be 7 hours behind us now because you sprang forward and we didn't. So should be 1 o'clock. About 12 minutes past 1 in the afternoon there? No? Unless I've got my figure. Come here, I botched it up yesterday. And I sent people astray all over the place, so I apologise for that. Anne McCallum is here. Hello, Anton, and all the mighty Tua. Many of us will be raising a glass to toast you, Anthony, for all that you do, and for the anniversary of Live Irish Myths Launch. I can't believe it's been 4 years, and what a pleasure to have yourself, Anne, and all the wonderful viewers, the Tua, and patrons, of course. Thank you for your support. It really is received very gratefully. And you sent me an email about a book that I didn't reply to. It's on a list of correspondence that I will reply to. I was trying to catch up with my backlog today, but thank you, Anne. I really, really appreciate everything you've done Ronald Burgess is here. What a nice surprise, especially after yesterday's reading was so informative. Brilliant. Well, we're going to just overlap a little bit, finish that out, and then I'm just going to refer to 2 or 3 more publications that you could read if you're interested in following up on this subject. Don't forget that, as I said last week, I think, and the week before, no, last week and yesterday, I'm not sure if I said it yesterday, I certainly said it last week. There are paperback versions of this book available secondhand, and probably hardbacks as well. The hardback is beautiful; it's lovely to hold. So get them secondhand. It's a brilliant book. It's really, really worth having. 322 Messenger, whose name I forget, and I apologize, says, good evening, Anthony, and everyone. Well, a very good evening to you. You're very welcome. Hope you're in good form. Claudie Frock is in, what is that? Georgia in Australia. Well, a very good morning to you. And we normally say happy Tuesday to the Australian viewers. We're now saying happy Wednesday because we're in Tuesday. Claudie, what a pleasure. Hope you're in good form. Thanks for joining us. And please do enjoy the stream and feel free to comment and interact. You'll make lots of friends on here. Thank you, Mariana, for the happy anniversary wishes. Yeah, wow. I have to pinch myself sometimes. It's been 4 years. And remember that for the first 103 episodes, it was daily. It was every day. Wow, brilliant. Porrick Byrne is saying, evening, Anthony and the two are from Mount Mellick in County Laois, Porrick. What a pleasure to welcome you. Hope you're in good form and hope the weather is not too soft in the Midlands. Sandra Boothroyd says, evening, Sláinte, Sandra, Tranonawa, Mukarja. 322 Messenger tells us it's my sister's birthday today too. Well, a very happy birthday to her. All of us March hares celebrating this month. Colleen M. Goodio is saying, hi, Anthony. Good evening to you, Colleen. You're very welcome to the stream. Hope you enjoy it. Connie, or is that Connie Reader? I started watching 2020 during lockdown. It was the bright spot of my day. Thank you so much. Maybe FTF someday. Face to face. It took me a second. Don't mind me. I'm old. Connie, thank you for coming along on the journey. And it's been such a pleasure. With nobody to watch, of course, it never would have happened. There's Tom King himself on Gowa. Hello there, Anthony and the mighty Tua. A dram raised to good health to one and all, my good man. Our Tua is so proud and very thankful. Keep doing what you are doing. Yes, I saw your post on the Mythical Ireland community. And there are a lot of dram glasses there. Do you need company? And more than one. Oh, there's a bottle of Bushmills there and a bottle of Jemmy. I don't know what Gordon's is that gin? Well, come here. I'll be straight over after the stream. How many are they? Pewter shot glasses or what are they? There's like 30 there or maybe more. Brilliant. Yeah. So I'll as soon as I'm finished, I'll be over to have a dram with you and share in the wonderful success of the whole thing, which, of course, Tom, you have been part of. So thank you for that. Barb Jordan is saying, hi, everyone. Hi, Barb. And Barb was watching the first night. Remember that. I'm right about that. I've said that numerous times. Barb, you are one of the people who was watching the first episode, the first night of our lockdowns. Kathy is raising a cup. Brilliant stuff. Clink all around. All we can hear is clinks around the world as the glasses and well, what do you call those pewter glasses? They're not glasses. They're made of metal. Sometimes the words just don't come. They're in there, but they just don't come down to the mouth and to the tongue and to the voice box. Pewter tumblers. Never mind. Somebody will tell me. T is saying, Anthony, you're on during the Champions League. That's why there aren't as many people watching. I would have thought that the Live Irish Myths audience, generally speaking, wouldn't be huge footy fans. Just saying. But come here, feel free to have one on one screen and one on the other. We can still say hello, you know. Or you can watch this afterwards because it'll be recorded, you know. Or you can watch the Champions League afterwards. Watch this first. X-Adventurer says, hello from Perthshire. Discovered you 2 weeks ago, working my way through every single video. Wow. Well, first of all, hello and good evening. And welcome to the mad world and the very deep rabbit hole that is Mythical Ireland. Good luck on watching all episodes. You're going to need to set aside a lot of time, but do remember at the beginning of every episode, most episodes anyway, is given over to saying hello to people. So you can usually slide the timeline along on YouTube or on Facebook by 10 minutes, sometimes 15 minutes, sometimes 20 minutes, sometimes more before you actually get to the juicy content. Anyway, I don't know what your name is, ex-adventurer, but hello to Perthshire, and you're very welcome, and I hope you enjoy the streams. Great to have you along. Wayne Bird is saying, evening, always nice to have a double Mythical Ireland. Yes, and looks like afterwards I'll be having a double whiskey in Tom's. Alwyn Roy Badziak is saying, happy anniversary. Keep going. Brilliant stuff, Alwyn. Always a pleasure. I love the heart and the clinking glasses, and the four-leaf shamrock would say nothing about that. Who else have we got? Are we up to date? Mariana is telling us it's a beautiful day in the Potomac Valley in Virginia. Brilliant stuff. And my pleasure, says Anne McCallum. One of the best. And there are many, many, many bests. Debbie Sheehy is in Melbourne, Australia. Good morning to you. Happy Wednesday. We normally say happy Tuesday from Monday, but we're saying happy Wednesday from Tuesday. Debbie, what a pleasure. Hope you're in good form. Irish Technical Thinker is saying, oh, what a treat. Another episode. Brilliant stuff. Thanks. Fascinating subject, which would define Ireland. I got my fresh shamrocks planted in my hanging baskets outside our door. Brilliant stuff, Marcus. And a very good evening to you. Hope you're in good form. I've overindulged, Anthony, says Tom. I can't feel my legs. Yeah. There's a very funny comment, Tom. You have a great sense of humor. There's a comment here where Kathy Mark says, I'll drink to that. And Tom says, I'm on dram number 12, Kathy, and I've counted 14 fingers. That can't be right. Steady on there, Tom. You'll be sleeping in the forge tonight, that's for sure. Chris Haney Lang is watching. Lucky me to stumble upon this, and happy anniversary. Brilliant stuff, Chris. Always a pleasure to welcome you to the streams. Hope you're in good form. And yeah, brilliant, delighted. Astro is saying, hello all, bonus, wisdom, yay, toasty and sunny in Tucson. Very nice. Send some of that sunny and toasty over here, will you, to evaporate some of the rain that's been plaguing us for days. And apparently we're going to have a week of it, so not much we can do about that. Anyway, yeah, that's we're up to date on the old comments, and I think on the old announcements, and I think we should probably just, well, it's not going to be a hugely, well, don't say that, Anthony. Whenever I say it's not going to be a long episode, it turns out to be an extra long episode because I just keep talking and nobody says, Anthony, will you shut up? That's the thing about reading comments. You can't shout live over the live stream. Anthony, will you shut up and stop talking? Will I tell a few jokes? I didn't tell any jokes last night. Sorely disappointing for many of you, I'm sure. Yeah. I was going to take one of those Viking river cruises until I found out that you don't get to loot the towns and monasteries along the way, so I cancelled. I don't like country music, but I don't mean to denigrate those who do. And for the people who like country music, denigrate means put down. I was chatting with the wife yesterday and I just blurted out, I think you're right. And she said, I didn't say anything. And I said, I'm just trying to save time. My wife says, I have two main faults as a husband. One, I don't listen. And two, something else. If I ever win the lottery, I'm going to share it with everyone on here. Not the money, you understand, just the fact that I won. Apparently, RSVPing to a wedding invitation with the words, maybe next time, is rude. I know that now. Are people, I've a list of them here, because I've been building them up. Are people born with photographic memories, or does it take time to develop? Of course, that's an older joke. That won't work with the digital generation, And one of my old favorites is, sometimes I use big words I don't understand in an effort to make myself sound more photosynthesis. Oh, nice. Irish cod and beer battered chips with bread and butter. As a traditional hearty meal from my childhood. I highly recommend everybody get in the car right now and go to Marcus's place in Belfast. Is there enough to go around? Loaves and fishes sort of thing, Marcus. Can't believe it's been 4 years, says Barb. It's been, as I say, grand. Anthony and I have had Main Squeeze Louise alongside, listening to every episode. Brilliant stuff. That's such a brilliant name for a dog. Main Squeeze Louise. Any more? I said to my wife, no. No. Okay, I'll read it. But just be aware, it's PG, okay? If there's any kids, just cover their ears. Your underwear is much too tight and very revealing, I said to my wife. She replied, wear your own then. Anyway, moving swiftly on. Back to the task in hand, which is to read about early Christian Ulster, and specifically the last section of this chapter, which is the only chapter we're reading due to copyright, and that is the one called Dynastic Changes, 8th to 12th centuries. Marcus is now sharing icons of his food in the chat. Well, thank you very much for that. Man does not live on icons alone or emojis. A few people are laughing. Marcus even professes to loving my jokes. Oh my God, do not encourage this man. What happened last night? Dawn asks. Well, Dawn, what happened was there was some sort of failure on Facebook because my streaming system was fine and the YouTubers were happy out until the very end. So something happened. All of the Facebookers lost the feed for a minute or two. So anyway, we're back on tonight to overlap from last night, to cover the cracks, as it were, and to actually finish the reading, which I didn't do last night because I ran out of time. So yeah, I'm sorry for the Facebook trouble, but if you could please write a letter of complaint to Mr. Mark Zuckerberg, care of Facebook, who cares a damn, nobody town anywhere, because you won't get a reply. And nobody will ever find out what happened. Maybe somebody complained about my jokes. I don't know. Maybe it was punishment for, having told too many porkies. Porkies? That's lies. Having told too many terrible jokes. Burr Whelan has joined us. Good evening, good afternoon, good evening. And yeah, welcome. We're just about to start reading. What time are we on? Yeah, it's nearly that time. It's nearly time I just shut up and, well, not shut up. I mean, shut up doing that and start doing that. Dynastic Changes, 8th to 12th century. So a little bit of overlap from last night, and then we will read out to the end of the chapter, and then I'll talk about a few more books that you might want to read if you're fascinated by what we have been reading. And I hope you have been, because I have been fascinated. Don't forget that next week's episode is highly likely to be devoted to St. Patrick, because I've been doing a little bit more research, and there's just a few things that I want to draw attention to with regard to his arrival in the Boyne Valley, specifically. Lexi's driving me to the airport, so neither of us can join tonight. Hi all, last time now I say that from Denver. Safe home, Barbara. Hope you have a safe trip, and yeah, hopefully it won't be too long before you two are back together again. Hope you had a great celebration yesterday, and I'm sure you did. Shasta Bize says, looking good. Brilliant, and I hope Facebook allows us to continue. Many Facebook friends end up in jail and don't know why. It's run by bots. I know. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, that is the world of changing technology and AI and all that stuff, and it just doesn't seem to be going the right way. Anyway, let's go. From the time of St. Patrick to the establishment of Brian Boru's claim to high kingship in the early 11th century, the political history of Ireland is dominated by the Ináil, and their claims to dynastic overlordship were encouraged and legitimised by the church. From around the 8th century, the terms Le Cuin and Le Moga began to be used to describe Ináil and Eomacht hegemony in the northern and southern halves of the country, respectively. Let Quinn, literally meaning the northern half. Let Moga, I'm not sure about Moga, but it's probably Lenneted with a H, so it's probably Moa. Let Moa. But anyway, we won't split hairs on it. The experts on the pronunciation of Middle Irish will correct me, hopefully. Later monastic writings gave prominence to dominant lines, and the Irish practice of kingship and succession was already modified in a feudal direction before the Anglo-Norman invasion. The 12th century church reforms, which introduced a diocesan organisation, mirrored closely the territorial and political changes that had occurred. The monastic familia of the early Irish church reflected a society based on the small units of tua and family groupings. And I still fondly refer to you all as our tua today. And that's based on a very old, certainly a medieval concept that possibly goes back into prehistory. By the 12th century, provinces had replaced peoples, sorry, I'm scratching my leg, as the essential political unit. And the development of strong provincial kingships provides the backdrop to the diocesan reorganization. As I said last night or last week, I can't remember, there were two major church synods in the 12th century. The Synod of Rathbrassel in 1111 AD, which was enforced or established a diocesan system in Ireland, and the Synod of Kells Mellifont in, I think, 1147, which expanded the number of dioceses, if I'm not mistaken, from 2 to 4. Don't hold me exactly to that, but I think that's what it was. The period witnesses constant pressure by ascending dynasties on older or declining ones. It was this pressure which was behind the expansion of Dál Riata into Scotland in the 5th century. And they were overrun entirely by Dál na Ré in the 8th century. Again, I don't know how to pronounce that exactly. N-A-R-A-I-D-E, but I suppose it's A-I-D-H-E. I don't know. Oh, hang on. I said I would do this. I'm going to do it. I'm going to take out Matthew Stout's book and see if there's a proper pronunciation for Dál na Ré in the margins of his book, because come on. Get yourself out there. No. It doesn't want to budge because there's so much stuff wedged in. I do apologize. So let me quickly look for Dál na Ré and just let's get this pronunciation down. So a wonderful book about medieval Ireland is Matthew Stout's. We covered this in an episode of Live Irish Myths or Book Talk, one or the other. And it's in our top 50. Matthew Stout. One of the brilliant things about it is, if you're not Irish or you don't know the pronunciation of Middle Irish or early Irish place names or proper names or whatever, all the pronunciation guides are in the margins. So let's have a look for Dál. Yeah, 178 and 186. Let's have a look. Hopefully there's a pronunciation guide so we can get this right for a change. I mean, I can get this right for a change. Dál Nairada. So it's D-A-W-L. This is the phonetic pronunciation guide. D-A-W-L, Dál, D-A for the L. Nair, N-A-I-R, Ada, A-H-D-A-H. N-A-I-R hyphen A-H hyphen D-A-H. Dál Nairada. So I said Nairada, but I had the AI in the wrong part of the pronunciation. Dál Nairada. Dál Nairada. I'm going to leave that there to assist me because that's just one I haven't gotten used to. Legs itchy. Dawn is saying, Anthony, can you please check any reference to Patrick and Haitian? In what context, Dawn? Give me just a little bit more. What is the supposed connection? Did he originate there, or according to tradition, or is it like Glastonbury where they say he's buried there or something? I don't know. Ooh, I just spotted there was some live action. Mavanwi, how are you? Yeah, I'm overlapping because the Facebookers lost the feed last night and it got interrupted, and I'm just overlapping. And we're celebrating 4 years. 4 years today since the first episode of Live Irish Myths, the 12th of March 2020. So that was a Thursday. This is a Tuesday. So good evening to you, and thanks for joining us. Dol Nairada. Isn't that what I said? N-A-I or A-H-D-A-H. I'm just going to, just apologies, folks, for the distraction. D-A-W-L-N-A-I or hyphen A-H hyphen D-A-H. Dol Nairada. Okay, I'll try and get that right from now on. Dol Nairada. His chapel is there before he went to Ireland, so any connection to Ireland, I don't know, and I'm not an expert on Patrick. I'm constantly sort of having to update the old database of information, but I will, of course, have a look and see if there's any information about that. Thank you, Mavanway. Thank you for 4 years of live myths, Anthony. Can you imagine you did this every evening through lockdown? Yeah, but then remember, you see, the thing about lockdown was I was working from home and nobody was going anywhere. The only place we were going was to the shop to get groceries. All other activities were off. All other travel was off. We were locked down within 2 kilometers. So yeah, but yeah, the other thing is trying to find the material to do back-to-back episodes. I remember there was a bit of pressure. All right, I'd be working during the day, and also conscious of the fact that I needed to set up the graphic for that evening's live stream and to find material to read about, or to talk about. But it was a great joy, mostly, Is that an insult? Should I go into a strop now? Your pronunciations are funnier than your jokes. They probably are, in fairness. The thing about I'm not much of a scholar of the modern Irish language, to my regret. I can speak some. I was told by several people when I was younger I was very good at pronouncing Irish words. Middle Irish is a whole different story, It's a defunct version of the language, Anyway, it is. I'm sure it's funny. I know. I get tied up in knots trying to pronounce things right, The Ullad, now confined to East Down, had shared the kingship of Ulidia with the Cruachan of Dol Nairada, roughly occupying the southern 2/3 of Antrim, half of Down, and North Louth, until 972, when they killed the last Cruachan king, Aid MacLungshik. They had been helped by the attacks on Dol Nairada by Ihurti of the Ariala, who, by the 12th century, had replaced them as the dominant element in Antrim. By then, however, the Ullad themselves no longer held any authority in Ulidia, much of which had been subsumed into the expanding overlordship of the Kinnail Noan. And that's literally the Kinnail, which I think is like a family group. It's spelled N-E-O for the G-A-I-N. Kinnail Ogan, if you like, but you'd lend it the G with a H. Owen, which is the name of one of the, I think isn't Owen, Connell and Owen were 2 sons of Niall at the Nine Hostages. Enail, O'Neill, sons of Niall, In the 8th and 9th centuries, the Kinnail Noan branch of the Northern Enail emerged from a long struggle with their rival branch, Kinnail Conal, and expanded from their Donegal Derry centre to take control of the mid-Ulster territories of the Ariala and become High Kings of Ireland. During the centuries of the Norse attacks, the annals also record a bewildering series of dynastic feuds in Ulster. As the 10th century opened, the climate deteriorated, food was scarce, and comets appeared in the sky. And this is a quote from the annals. Great snow and cold and unprecedented frost in this year, so that the chief lakes and rivers of Ireland were passable, which brought great havoc upon cattle, birds, and fishes. Horrid signs besides. The heavens seemed to glow with comets. And that's an indication, something I read as a young 10-year-old when I first became interested in astronomy, was the fact that comets were seen by many ancient cultures around the world as portents omens of bad luck or doom. And this is an example of it. Here in the annals, they're seeing comets. Two sentences. Horrid signs besides, the heavens seemed to glow with comets. Internal feuding in the Ineal facilitated the rise of Brian Boru to the High Kingship and destroyed their centuries-old monopoly. Thereafter, Ulster became increasingly isolated from the affairs of the rest of the country. But the continued aggrandisement of the Cinel Noan and their allies was bringing about significant changes in Gaelic society. There was a considerable narrowing of power at the top, and there are hints in the annals of a growing distance and hostility between upper and lower orders. The idea of the Tua and its king as the essential unit was being eroded by the surge towards dynastic aggrandisement. Familial land is no longer sacrosanct. There's a growing territorialisation of the idea of kingship, power over property as well as peoples, and the Cinel Noan's subjugation of the Ullad included the alienation of large tracts of territory in a way which would have been unacceptable at an earlier period. The early Middle Ages thus witnessed the oft-repeated process in Irish history of subject peoples being pushed down the social scale and on to less fertile land. Notable too in this period was the tendency both of conquered and conqueror to simply assume the pedigrees of the more ancient peoples. Falsification and confusion of genealogies became a matter for complaint by the poets, one complaining in 1150, quote, "Bad brotherhood within the Tua, iniquitous law and great arrogance in kings. The needy transitory king will subdue the miserable husbandman. Many judges without justice, sovereignty destroyed by base kindreds," unquote. Sounds familiar. Could be talking about today, couldn't we? Mark Gordon is in the house. Good evening to you. Good afternoon, Mark. Hope you're in good form. Lexi Erickson, I just dropped Barbara off at the airport and I'm driving back home after the awesome birthday week. But I'm listening. Love this chapter. Brilliant stuff, Lexi. Drive safely and happy birthday again. May the celebrations last for several days. So when I'm 50 later this month, I'm going to make sure the celebrations last several days. Ex-Adventurer says, one of the first video of yours I saw, you had tears of joy that you could go back to Newgrange. How these places touch our hearts. Yeah, that was after the lockdowns. There was, I think, a couple of months where I couldn't go to Newgrange because it was outside my kilometre limit. And yeah, I will remember that. I remember being emotional about being able to go back. Anna L, happy anniversary to all the two. Anthony, big thanks to you for creating this space, which meant a lot to me when I was going through the worst time in my life. Once again, thank you for all thank you all for being there for me. Well, what a pleasure. And yeah, it's a real honor and a privilege. It has been since day one and continues to be. So thank you for the kind words. Surely reaching 50 should be a year-long celebration. I agree, Mavanwe. I agree wholeheartedly. Please send a bottle of whiskey every week. On a big cream bun. Or a big fancy Madeira cake or something. I like Black Forest, but I'm just saying. I'm joking. Where were we? I've totally lost my place now. I'll find it, don't worry. By the time of the Norman invasion in the 12th century, it had become impossible to trace lineages with certainty to an ancient past. One sign of this narrowing of power was the trend towards surnames from the 11th century onwards, further separating dominant from inferior family groupings. Most notable is the emergence of the O'Neill from Cinel Noan, and, over the next 2 centuries, their defeat and reduction of their once dominant kinsmen, the MacLaughlins, to the status of minor lords of Inishowen. The O'Cahan, or the O'Cahan, likewise emerged from the proliferation of Cinel Noan families in this period and established themselves in the North Derry. At the end of the 12th century, the O'Doherty rose to dominance from the internal feuding of Cinel Conal, only to be replaced themselves as overlords by the O'Donnell or O'Donnells at the beginning of the following century. The pressure of the Ineal dynasties had greatly reduced the Ariala territory, or Oriel, by the 12th century to that roughly coexistent with Fermanagh, Monaghan, Armagh, and part of Louth. The O'Carroll or O'Carroll dynasty were replaced as kings of Arialla in the 12th century by the Mac or MacMahon, who remained effective rulers of Monaghan to the end of the Old Order at the beginning of the 17th century. And just to add that, as I said last night when I read this, O'Carroll, Donnacha O'Carroll was the king in Arialla or Oriel, who granted land to the Cistercians so that they could establish Mellifont Abbey. Their lineage could be traced back to 700 AD. This is the MacMahons. More dubious was the Arialla descent claimed by the Fermanagh Maguires, who only emerged into history at the end of the 13th century. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure of the pronunciation of the Irish version of that. But anyway, the Arthur of Armagh had been chief rivals to the O'Carrolls, but their power was eventually eclipsed by Énail encroachments, and the only branch to retain prominence into modern times were the O'Hanlons. Further east, only the Cruhan, MacGennises, and their kinsmen, the MacCartan or the MacCartans of Down, survived the dynastic aggression of the pre-Norman age and the Anglo-Norman invasion of Ulster. Such developments, however, were largely confined to the upper echelons of society and did not alter the lives of most people in these centuries. Apart from a general increase in tillage, Ulsterman lived much as he had done in the past. He was still largely engaged in raising livestock. His home was still a circular wooden structure, heated by central fires, and as ill ventilated and smoke-filled as those still remarked on by the Williamite forces in the 17th century. In this, little differentiated the upper from the lower social levels, despite the enormous noble contempt for the lower orders. Slavery persisted into the 12th century, and, as elsewhere, pagan survivals continued to be complained about by the church into modern times. We're just about to go to section 5 of the chapter, the bit that I did not read last night, and that is called The Irish Church on the Eve of the Norman Invasion. What was the nature of the Christianity bequeathed by Gaelic society? Giraldus complained of the absence of a pastoral mission in the Irish Church of the 12th century. It is one of the few areas in which his criticism is well founded. There is little evidence that the monasteries gave much priority to preaching or to the care of souls. Whatever the genuine asceticism of some, particularly during the period of the Cayley Day, the Culdee movement of the 8th century, which practiced strict self-sacrifice and also included reclusive anchorites, basically people who shunned society, went off and lived on their own in remote places. But the 12th, and of course the other thing about the Cayley Day, as we've mentioned in plenty of episodes before, is that they were peed off. They became disillusioned with the fact that the chiefs and the kings were basically, in a way, so to speak, in bed with the church, and that the two, church and politics, became very heavily intertwined. And the Cayley Day wanted a movement away from that, and all the favours that were done in return for patronage and all of that stuff. But the 12th century reformers exaggerated the worldliness of the early Irish church. They underestimated the elements of genuine piety and, more importantly, the deep impact it had made on Irish society. The simple fact is that the Irish church on the eve of the Norman conquest was a, quote, popular, unquote, one. It had accommodated pagan survivals and existing secular society, and succeeded in turn in permeating the culture of that society on common ground. So I'll just reiterate that, because this is extremely important in any study, and especially with all the nonsense that gets promulgated and propagated on social media today by certain people who adhere to certain beliefs that aren't actually based in reality. The church was a popular one. It had accommodated pagan survivals and existing secular society, and succeeded in turn in permeating the culture of that society on common ground. In other words, it wasn't a fire and brimstone sort of church that said if you're a pagan, you'll be burned at the stake. It was, you're a pagan, okay, well, what are your feast days? Well, let's try and incorporate those into our new calendar. The authors of the early saints' lives had consulted popular tradition so that the images transmitted to future generations were very often those developed by Irish society in the 8th century. The saints are endowed with virtues esteemed by that society, not least of which is their role in providing hospitality and entertainment, and in later times they were deemed to have blessed the merriment of and festivities of the patrons' days or patterns celebrated at local holy wells. And of course, starting on Thursday, there's going to be a 6-part TV series on TG4, which is TG4 here in Ireland, an Irish language station, presented by our good friend Moncon McGann. That is broadcasting every Thursday for 6 weeks at 8 p.m, starting this Thursday, the 14th of March. There's a big blog post about it on the Mythical Ireland website, mythicalireland.com. I'll actually share that now. But just to say that if you're not in Ireland, you can still watch it on the player. The TG4, my contact in TG4 told me today, it should be viewable worldwide. So if you're in the States or in the UK or in Canada or in Australia or wherever you are, somewhere in Europe, you should be able to watch it. And afterwards it will be available as a box set. So do tune into that. That sounds like it's going to be fascinating. And I'm looking forward to it. And of course, my good friend Moncon, who we had on as a guest on Live Irish Myths in Conversation in the first year of the lockdowns, I think, or either in 2020 or 2021. And of course, more recently at the Samhain Festival at Clonakilty, he and I shared the stage, and that video is on the Mythical Ireland YouTube channel. The veneration of local saints, almost as familial figures, was a particular facet of Irish rural society. St. Patrick, this is a quote, St. Patrick didn't discourage the sport or myth that used to be at these places, unquote, a Fermanagh storyteller claimed in the 1970s, quote, but he made these places holy places, unquote, places still known to be good for a day's outing. The relics of the saints became important tools of power for the leading dynasties, their bells in particular being vested with supernatural powers, their hereditary custodians becoming venerated figures. And wasn't it the bell that Patrick threw at Corra, the monster, off the mountain of Crochan Aigla, now known as Croagh Patrick? I think he threw his bell, wasn't it, that killed the Corra, and the Corra went into the lake, now known as Loch Corra. The holy wells and other pagan sanctuaries are still places of pilgrimage to the present day, damned as, quote, mere remnants of heathen superstitions practiced by our forefathers before the Christian era and afterwards appended to the rites and ceremonies, or ITES, enjoined by the Church of Rome in the darker ages of Christianity, unquote, as one of the many critics put it in the 19th century. Who's that, as a matter of interest? Footnote number 55. There's a few actually referenced here. Philip Dixon Hardy, The Holy Wells of Ireland. Oh, Morgasa, The Holy Wells of Donegal. Bailogus Doherty, The Use of Relics in Early Ireland. O'Laverty finds holy wells in almost every townland down in Connor, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, not sure what the specific quote, where the quote is specifically from. Whatever the controversy about which church was the natural successor to Patrick's, Irish Protestantism generally, alike with the Catholic hierarchy of later centuries, would remain dismissive of the pagan survivals, which were as much part of that church as its biblical teachings, and the rural nature which had transformed it at the outset remained to conserve those elements into later times. So, yeah, the pagan survivals were an equally important part of the early Catholic Church, as important as the biblical teachings. And that's where the chapter ends. And unfortunately, that is all I can read to you, because I do not want to. I'm trying to stay within the fair use clause of our copyright laws, and I have read several more chapters, and it is continuing to be enthralling. So what I can recommend to you, or all I can recommend to you, is that you get your own copy of The Catholics of Ulster. As I said previously, you may have looked at this in a bookshop and said, really interested in, it sounds like, it's all going to be about a certain thing or certain themes. And it is actually a brilliant insight into, well, certainly the early chapters are a brilliant insight into medieval Ireland, but not the only ones. As it happens, around about the time now, before I get on to speaking about other works that you can read on this subject, I'll quickly just scroll through the comments and see if there's any comments or questions. Looking forward to that. Hopefully I can tune into it, says Anne. Hopefully, yeah. Let me know how that goes, by the way. I know we really enjoyed your Zoom conversations. Maybe think of doing a few more. Yeah, I am thinking of doing a few more. It's just all about time and of course, resources, I have asked a couple of people to do podcast interviews with me. I won't say who they are just yet. Ideally, I'd like to go and meet them and sit down with them and do a 2-camera interview instead of a Zoom thing, because the quality afterwards is never good. It's never good enough for me. I just prefer, while we can sit down face to face, and of course the conversation when you're face to face tends to be a bit better. So that's what I'm going to try to do. But I'm trying to finish my Fornox book in addition to planning these changes to these improvements or enhancements to the website. So kind of flat out at the moment. But anyway, we'll get there. Well, anyway, after the Reformation, the Welsh were banned from visiting their holy wells. I found some very interesting stories in a book called The Holy Wells of Wales. Hundreds of people still went to the wells despite the threat of arrest. Sounds a little bit like the penal laws, doesn't it? Those times when you couldn't practice Catholicism and Mass was said at Mass Rocks out in isolated areas of the countryside, And Lily Shambles, yeah, exactly. Fair use, free ad for the book. Well, hopefully that's the way they look at it. Hope I haven't done anything untoward. That's how the liturgical saints calendar was compiled. Yeah, let's gather together all of the existing beliefs and put them into a melting pot. Monica Regley is in the house. I did not see you there. Good evening to you, Monica. Hope you are in good form. Great to see you on the stream. Always a pleasure to give you a nice big welcome. Marcus says, well said, and that's for something I probably said ages ago, so I apologize. Dawn says, my daughter is from the Maguire and married to McCartney. You see, and the number of O'Neills around the place today is quite extraordinary, Yeah, I love this period during this time, as it wasn't actually corrupt by Rome, or corrupted, I presume you mean, and was somewhat its own independent sovereign faith incorporated within the Celtic world. Magical, yeah. An insular Irish Christianity, a Celtic Christianity, as it's often been called by the scholars. We did our own thing, basically, We just seen a book, Pre-Christian Ulster. Who's the author, Dawn? Share a link and we'll have a look at it. Anyway, around the same time as I picked up that, it's a little bit grubbier now because of, when a book is almost as good as new and it's really clean, and then you keep reading it and thumbing the pages, and they do get just a tiny bit. Anyway, around the same time, I picked up this, which is A Short History of Irish Literature by Seamus Dean. Now, Seamus Dean was, because this was published, I think, 30 years ago, or maybe more, 1990s or 1980s, 1986. Seamus Dean was, at that time, Professor of Modern English and American Literature at UCD, University College Dublin. It is a little bit more scholarly, whereas I would say Marianne Elliott's book that we've just been reading is more accessible. This is a little bit more scholarly, but equally fascinating. So what I'm going to do is, because we have time, I'm going to read out the preface. And maybe if you thought we could tolerate it, we could read chapter 1 as an episode. There are several histories of, so just to reiterate, I'm just about to read the preface of A Short History of Irish Literature. The author is Seamus Dean. This was published in 1986 by Hutchinson Group, published in Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, US, U.S. edition published by University of Notre Dame Press. Or do you say Notre Dame over there? I mean, I think in French you would say Notre Dame. Okay, I'm having a look at World of Books here. Dawn has just sent us a link. Pre-Christian Ulster, A Journey into Archaeology. Michael Sheen. £7.99. Yeah, that looks pretty decent, you know. I haven't. I don't think I've seen that. I don't have it in my calendar or in my library even. I like that World of Books. I found that I actually only started using that in recent times, and I've found it to be yeah. They seem to have some good stuff, and if I'm not mistaken, a book that I ordered on it was delivered fairly quickly. Don't know where they're based. Where are they based? They're in the UK. Not sure where. But anyway, yeah, good stuff. You haven't got it. I know, right? People think that. Not being an academic scholar means I don't have access to the reading lists that you know students and professors and doctors and master's degree holders would have in a university. So I have to try to find that out in other ways. Actually, one of the main ways where I find source material is to read the bibliographies and the footnotes of what are academic works. That's how I found, for instance, Rees and Rees, Irish or Celtic Heritage, which is a brilliant book, and plenty of others, just by reading the bibliographies and footnotes. Anyway, I'll read this preface and see if it gives you a taste of what this is about. A short history of Irish literature. There are several histories of Anglo-Irish literature and many surveys of particular periods within the field. Even though there is a perceptible uneasiness about the date of the emergence of this body of writing, and even more about the relation it bears on the one hand to Gaelic and the other to English literature, there is no substantial dispute about the integrity of this literary tradition in the English language. To describe this literature as Anglo-Irish is by now anachronistic, although Irish literature is not without its perils also. This is an inevitable problem in a colonial or neo-colonial culture like ours, where the naming of the territory has always been, in literary, geographical, or historical contexts, a politically charged activity. One of the aims of this book is to show how literature has been inescapably allied with historical interpretation and with political allegiance. The Irish experience in all its phases has led to an enhanced sense of the frailty of the assumptions which underlie any working system of civilization, and of the need to create, by a persistent effort, the enabling fictions which win it for the necessary degree of acceptance. Which win for it the necessary degree of acceptance. Because of this, Irish writing has traditionally been extraordinarily interrogative. Here we go again. Choose your own. It has moved between the extremes of aestheticism, seeing literature as an end in itself, and of political commitment, seeing it as an instrument for the achievement of other purposes. Most of the great writers incorporate both attitudes within their work, and they share with lesser writers the conviction that the matter of Ireland is, in parvo, the matter of civilization itself. It is only in a minority culture, acclimatized to discontinuity, that such a dream of totality can be regularly entertained. What does that Latin phrase "in parvo" mean? I'm not familiar with it. I didn't study Latin. In miniature. Okay. In parvo is in miniature. The matter of Ireland is, in miniature, the matter of civilization itself. Yeah, that makes sense. However, such matters cannot be dealt with in any detail in an introductory volume, which has no claim to the comprehensiveness of a history or to the minuteness of a monograph. The need to compress the material involved, sorry, the need to compress the material involved a number of exclusions. Gaelic literature is, for instance, treated in a summary fashion, partly because of my own deficiencies in that area. Thank you, and fair play for holding up your hands to that. Partly because the emphasis had to be on literature in the English language. Even then, there are omissions. Swift's poetry, the tradition of Irish oratory, Shaw's full career as a dramatist and polemicist, as well as the work of a large number of modern and contemporary writers, are sacrificed for the sake of a continuous narrative in which some of the preoccupations I have mentioned are prominent. The same imperative led me to exclude Irish fiction of the 18th century. Henry Brooke and William Chaineau, Chaigneu, I presume that's a French name, possibly, Chaineau, are interesting figures, but their inclusion here would have taken me too far from the central story. In effect, that story is about a literary tradition which has undergone a series of revivals and collapses, all of them centered upon an idea of Ireland. Sometimes the Ireland we speak of as an Edenic, sometimes a utopian place. On other occasions, it is a rebuke to both. There is a consistent fascination with the discrepancy between the Irish world as imagined and the Irish world as it is. And this eventuates time and again in Swift, in Joyce, in Burke, in Standish O'Grady, and many others, in a critique of the idea of authority. I'll be reading, if I do, chapter 1, which is the Gaelic background, which is more based around the things we've been exploring in the readings of the past few episodes. Authority and its legitimacy and effectiveness was always a matter of concern in Ireland, since it has only seldom proved its claim to either. But for writers, the questionable nature of authority has an especial charm, since there is, for an author, no more natural or indeed radical question. The interrogation of the status of an author, as such, is more likely to proceed when there are two prevailing conditions. One is that the author is uncertain about his true audience, and second, that the author is uneasy with the very medium of communication. Both these conditions prevail in Ireland for writers of both English and Irish, and their reality is exhibited in the fluctuating state of the Irish publishing industry. To be an Irish writer in English for a predominantly Irish or a predominantly English audience is an ambiguous fate, overcome only by those few who manage to be both. A more thorough exploration of these ambiguities leads to strange, experimental, and subversive enterprises like those we associate with, say, Swift, Beckett, Flann O'Brien, George Moore, Joyce, and in a tributary fashion with the translators who play such an important role in the endless negotiation between the two languages and between the competing interpretations of history, which are so often involved with them. Linguistic unease lends itself to formal experimentation, although equally it can lead to naivety, clumsiness, and a degree of introverted provincialism. All of these features are strongly pronounced in the literature discussed here. Finally, there is another kind of exclusion which merits observation. The exemplary instances are Congreve and Sterne. It is naturally with some reluctance that I omit writers of such quality, both for their own sakes and because of the compatibility between their work and some of the masterpieces of the Irish tradition. I'm going to stop reading there because it kind of doesn't feel as if it's immediately relevant to what we've been talking about. The other book I haven't read yet, and I'm really looking forward to it, that I picked up in recent times, is the one that's called The Age of the Saints in the Early Celtic Church. And that's by Nora Chadwick. And having read some of her work, I think I'm in for a bit of a treat. It will be scholarly. It'll be very, very well researched and written, and it'll be interesting. And perhaps I will learn more from it. This is a publication that was based upon the Riddle Memorial Lectures that were delivered at King's College in the University of Durham in March of 1960. So it's older material, but it'll certainly be interesting to read. Now, on the subject of the literary tradition, actually, just 1 second, I just want to check that I haven't missed any comments or questions. Nora Chadwick is great, says Mavanwa. Yeah, agree. What date was the book published, Anthony? Is that this one? I think it's also 1960, but maybe I'm mistaken about that. Actually, yeah, well, it's signed Nora Chadwick, September 1960. And again, there's another edition in Cambridge, 1963. So it has to be 1963 or later. But the actual publication date is not on it. And look what it says on the back. Printed in Wales. There you go. No, the literature one. Apologies. Okay. 1986, I think I said, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just double check that. US edition, first published 1986, US edition 1986, University of Notre Dame Press. 1986. Joe Butler is here. Auntie Joe, better late than never, of course. And thank you for the congratulations. Onwards and upwards. Here we are, 4 years down the road. Who would have thought it? Edina Sparks sneaks in at the back. Hello, Auntie the two. I've been out getting my horse ready for our upcoming show. Fantastic stuff. What's the horse's name? And the very best of luck in the show. But The Great Age of Saints was printed in Wales. Lovely, thank you. Yes, so one other, apart from Douglas Hyde's History of Irish Literature, which we spoke about in our top 50, I still have to compile that list for the web. Oh, geez, there just isn't enough time in the day. I'm going to need to hire staff. Yeah, and that's this one, 1,000 Years of Irish Poetry. And the author there is, or the editor is Kathleen Hoagland, Hoagland. Let me just tell you a little bit about this. And so forgive me, this is one I haven't read yet, but there's poetry. I mean, it's literally, it's a compendium. Is that the word? It's a compendium of Irish poetry over a period of 1,000 years. Published in 1947 and 1975. The Devon Adair Company. But this looks like a more recent. This edition published by special arrangement with the Devon Adair Company. This doesn't look like it's from 1975, and yet it does. The typography does look like slightly older, but it's very clean. How lucky am I? I can't remember where I got that, whether I bought it online or I bought it in the Hill of Tara, or where I got it, because it's extremely clean. It's very nice. And so the earliest poetry in that is Amergin's Song of Amergin, translated by Douglas Hyde. And yes, Dr. Douglas Hyde writes in his Literary History of Ireland that the first poems written in Ireland were said to be those of Amergin, who was brother of Ever, Ir, and Erimon, the first Milesian princes who colonized Ireland many hundreds of years before Christ. Yeah, so that's a book that runs to omnibus, a 1-volume reference library. You find almost anything in it, from the ancient ballads of pagan times to new lyrics by poets born not many yesterdays ago. It runs to 770 pages. Wow. Anna L says, where to send CV? Yeah. Anybody willing to work for Mythical Ireland for nothing? Yeah, that day is hopefully coming, you know. You have children, free labor, lol. Kiddos, come here, listen. Yeah. Funny, I know. To become a saint, says Monica. You mean a CV? Yeah. Here's my CV for sainthood. Yeah. It's like a naughty and nice list. I'm just trying to think of anything else. Well, I suppose a wonderful companion to everything we've spoken about over the last 3 episodes is Matthew Stout's Early Medieval Ireland, because it will put in each century, it will put for you in very brilliantly executed maps the Northern Nail, Meath, Brega, the Lion, the Muvu, Connacht, etc., and the various places mentioned. But if you look at the beginning of each chapter, which covers sort of different time phases, I mean, there's a map of Viking raids, the second generation of Viking raids in the 830s to the 870s. Matthew Stout's maps are just, well, he's a historical cartographer. That's his speciality. And isn't he just brilliant at it, you know? So, for instance, if we go back a little bit, so go back to the Golden Age, 757 to 808, and we have the Northern Nail, the Southern Nail. There's the Ullud, there's the Dal Eachtak, and the various kingdoms, Northern Brega, Southern Brega, Lera, Meath, Clan Coleman, etc. And if we go later, if I can find it, yes, I'm sure I can find it. If you can bear with me for a moment. Places mentioned in chapter 11, that's 1086 to 1138. So we'd see that Ariala, which we spoke about tonight, Oriel, has become established as a kingdom at this point, incorporating basically where I live right now, incorporating parts of what is modern County Louth, anciently called Muirhevna. Yes, Kinnail Noan, you see that up here. We have Breffni, the kingdom of Breffni, which sort of extends from, it covers a lot of, isn't it, County Cavan and up into Leitrim. We have Ishnock, the Doyle Kosh, which weren't in the earlier maps. They're the tribe from which Brian Boru arose, he who becoming the very famous king. But as I said, so here we have peoples mentioned in chapter 11, Ariala, and we have the pronunciation, Brega, Brega, Breffni, Breffni. The phonetic pronunciations here in this column. And in all pages where a new a proper name that wasn't mentioned before is introduced, the pronunciation guides are in the margins. I just think it's brilliant. Brilliant. Yeah. I suppose if you're going to go there, you have to have that one. Children as interns, that is a joke. I should point out that 4 of my children are adults. Only one of them is still younger than 18. But you mentioned interns and joke in the same sentence. I suppose if they're going to be trained as Mythical Ireland workers, they'll have to be trained in telling bad jokes as well. You know, imagine being in Anthony's library. You wouldn't get much work done. Well, if your work involves doing a lot of reading, then you would get a lot of work done. It's very distracting, I have to admit. Very distracting. But, I mean, look, you might as well be sitting in a library as sitting in front of a computer with internet access and be browsing social media for half your day, you know? Brilliant for us visual learners, says X-Adventure. Let me just check if I have any messages, and I don't. Good. Anything else? I think that's it. Anyway, yeah, happy 4-year anniversary. Next weekend coming is St. Patrick's weekend. We have St. Patrick's Day on the 17th, which is Sunday. I'll be participating in the Drogheda St. Patrick's Day parade with the Drogheda Brass Band. Monday evening, yeah, so Monday is actually St. Sheila's Day. We have devoted a couple of or at least one March the 18th episode to Sheila. But I'm intending that the next episode of Live Irish Myths will be devoted to just a closer examination of the story of Patrick's arrival into the Boyne Valley and his lighting of the Paschal fire, and some detail of that. Now, if you're interested in that subject, this coming Saturday, the 16th of March, I was interviewed by Philip Boucher Hayes of RTE for a programme called Countrywide, which broadcasts on Saturday mornings starting at 8:10 a.m. Irish time, from 10 past 8 until 9 a.m. And that's about the Boyne River and its catchment. And he wanted to speak to me in particular about one of the mythological traditions of that river. We didn't speak about Bowen, which, look, that's just the way it goes. I've obviously written a monograph about Bowen, so I like to talk about her. We talked about Patrick, and in particular some aspects of his story. So you'll get hints of what the next episode will be about if you want to tune into that programme on Saturday. That is available, should be available on the RTE player. I'm not sure if the RTE player is the same as TG Ceathair, as in that it will work worldwide. So I just don't know. I can't say whether, if you're in the States or the UK or Canada or Australia, whether you'll be able to listen or not. I suspect you will if you use the listen live function on the RTE website. That's rte.ie. And you're looking for RTE Radio 1, and you're looking for the Countrywide programme with Philip Boucher Hayes. So the next episode, which will be Monday, the 18th, I plan to talk about more of the story of St. Patrick. So I hope you all have a fabulous St. Patrick's weekend. Ulysses 31 is telling us the archaeology of Ulster from colonization to plantation by Mallory and McNeil is a great source book, and I don't have that one either. So thank you for the recommendation, and I look forward to getting my hands on it at some point. Jeannie Foley says, I love to be sitting amongst all those books. Yeah. And it's like, it's great to be able to say just of an evening, do you know what? I don't really want to read about medieval Ireland at the moment. I want to read about, late Neolithic structures, so I pick out an archaeology book, or I want to read about astronomy, so I pick out an astronomy book, or I want to read a bit of fiction, I'll pick out a novel, or I want to read about classical mythology or ancient Egypt or art. I have books on art, the story of art, of course, which I think everybody has. I could read, I have a few books about business. I could read, lots of stuff about history. I have a copy of Moby Dick. Call me Ishmael. Or is it Ishmael? How would you say that? Anyway, I'm off to have a dram, to raise one for the continued success of Live Irish Myths, and to thank you wholeheartedly for your continued support, not just of Live Irish Myths, but the Mythical Ireland project, which is now, as of by coincidence, next Monday is also the 24th. Is it the 16th or the 18th? Mythical Ireland website was established in March of the year 2000. I think it was the 18th. It may have been the 16th. If any of you are hanging around for a minute, I'm going to actually check. The Wayback Machine on the Internet Archive, because early versions of the website will have it. mythicalireland.com. So bear with me one moment and I'll tell you, because it was either the 16th or the 18th, which means that we've another reason to celebrate next week. So I'm going to go back to, say, just pick out a copy of the website that was snapshotted in March of 2003, 21 years ago, and just see if it says, I left it on the website for years and years and years. Yeah, established 16th of the 3rd, 2000. So it's the 16th. This Saturday is the 24th anniversary, which means next year we're going to have a major celebration, which will involve probably a major giveaway, I imagine. And that Irish thing you say. Gunairi and Boher live. May the road rise to meet ye. Thank you, Anthony, for the bonus episode and all the time you share with us. Have a safe week, everyone, and happy St. Patrick's Day. Yes, indeed, Adina, thank you to you, and many happy returns. Monica Regley's wishing us all a happy St. Patrick's as well. Vela Porrig, Honna Giev, thank you, Alwyn. Yeah, sure, look, we'll do our best to celebrate the Patrick is interesting, you know. Oh, whoa, you are going to be a tad pished for a while in all the celebrations. Yeah, I know. Happy anniversary, Mythical Ireland. It's been a heck of a ride. It's been great fun. So rewarding. I must have been following MI for at least 8 years. Yeah, it's a funny thing that I established the page on Mythical Ireland on Facebook much later than I should have. I kind of relied on my own Facebook to share a lot of stuff, my own personal profile. Probably should have set up the page 5 years earlier than I did. But anyway, look, it's got 79,000 and so many. We need another 700 or 800 likes to get over the 80,000. Thank you, Lucas, and buena serata to you. Happy Mythology Tuesday from Tuesday. Yeah. Hey, you can say that now. Yeah, brilliant. To Gabugi, thanks, Mesmarian. To Gabuge to you also. Thank you for joining us. I didn't know you were here. I'll just type that in there. Enjoy a dram with Tom King for us. Yeah, Tom looks like he's got enough to share around the whole lot of us, actually. So let's head on over to his place now, over to the Forge, and there'll be a lot of glasses clinking for the next while. Barbara is waiting for a flight that's 1.5 hours away. I love you all as company. Brilliant stuff, Barbara. And yeah, safe flight home. And we'll see you next week, hopefully. Thanks, Auntie Joe. And Connie and Adina and Monica, Dawn, and Barbara, and ex-adventurer and Mavanway, and Lily, and Wayne, and 322 Messenger, and Barb Jordan, Mariana, Ulysses 31, etc., etc., etc. All that remains for me to say right now is don't forget to come back next week. In the meantime, Ichawa, Cullis Sov, Slán go fóil, agus Tóga Buggy. Barbara wants to change flights so she can come to Ireland instead. Oh, sure, come on. It'll be great crack. Good night. And congratulations to Cillian Murphy on winning the Academy Award for Best Actor. Brilliant stuff. Michael Trott is... I'm leaving, Michael. It's over. But as soon as we end, you'll be able to watch back. But here's your hello as we say goodbye and good morning to you. Happy Wednesday. See you all next week. Cheerio.